That's sad. Thanks for calling, buddy.
Bubba, Rick and Bubba.
In the thick of these hot summer days, your Atlanta Braves are heating up in the race for the division. And as the battle for the National League gets hot, count on us to bring you every big swing.
Payoff pitch. Hit in the air to right center field. On the move is Perez. It's gone!
Listen to all the exciting action of Atlanta Braves baseball on Clarksville's only news, talk, and sports station, WJZM Radio.
Depend on WJZM Radio for the latest forecast.
And now the weather.
Your weather forecast for the Clarksville, Fort Campbell area for today, mostly sunny, high of about 92 degrees. And overnight, we'll see clear skies with a low of 71 degrees. And then as we move along to Wednesday, middle of the work week, looks like we'll see mostly sunny skies tomorrow, high of about 94 degrees. And the heat index will be as high as 99 degrees tomorrow afternoon, but there is a 20% chance of showers and thunderstorms. That has been a continuing look at your weather forecast on WJZM Radio, brought to you today by CDE Light Band.
CDE offers low-interest loans for installation of electric heat pumps. A new energy-efficient heat pump could save you up to 50%. For more information, call CDE at 648-8153.
Since 1941, serving the public interest. WJZM Radio, Clarksville, Tennessee.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Dale Brown here with your Lunch and Learn, your Maximize Your Health radio show, whatever you want to call it. Hey, you call in. If you want to hear anything as far as a health topic, you want to find out what's behind the research study saying that fish oil is causing prostate cancer. We're going to talk about that already today. But if you got any questions about supplements you're taking, maybe the medications, you want to know my outlook on it, or what kind of research I've compiled regarding that medication, or the next procedure your doctor is asking you to go through, whatever it may be, we're here to answer your health questions and help you reach your God-given health potential. I got a guest with me today, one of my best friends, really mean that, Jacob Slater. He's been a patient. I mean, literally, I'm almost like I don't remember any patient walking through my doors before you walked through my doors. So, Jacob, introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jacob Slater. I'm 20 years old. I'm a native of Clarksville, Tennessee. I moved here when I was 1 year old. Grew up playing baseball my whole life. Got into some trouble when I was in high school. Had some lower back pain.
Don't we all?
Yep, everybody has a little bit of trouble. Got some lower back pain in my lower back, and as my shoulder as well. And the other day I was checking my paperwork, and it was on May 31st, 2010. And I remember the exact day that I, first met you and saw you. I remember that I was struggling with back pain, shoulder pain, clavicle pain, everything along the lines of pain. I was dealing with it, sitting, standing.
You were a catcher,
yes,
for Clarksville High School, or where did you go to school?
Yep.
And I remember you talking about that and just kind of giving some back history, because I'm going to remember some things too. Is you were almost to the point where you're done catching, you're almost done with baseball, you're almost to the point where you couldn't play anymore because of the pain you were suffering with.
Yep. Yeah, and that was exactly it. And I can remember walking through the mall that one day, and I was with my mom, and I was going to get a haircut, and I turn around, I turn to the left, and I see this guy, same height as me,
kind of looks a lot like
good physique. The only thing, the main difference, and everybody can agree with me, is the curly hair. I've got straight hair, he's got curly hair. But I remember walking over there, and he just ran these, he ran a few tests on me to see how my muscles were being stressed, and kind of let me understand the philosophy of, muscles do control bones, and the bones won't move without, muscle movement. So if a bone is shifted out of place, then the muscle may be spasming, you may feel pain. He understood, I began to understand that, and I got scheduled the next day. And I can still remember today. I went in there and got my x-rays. He sent me home. I was anticipating seeing my x-rays the next day. I came back that next day. He adjusted my neck once. The shoulder pain was gone. And I'm not here to say that, I came in there strictly for pain, and when my pain was going to go away, I was walking out. Every time I walked in there from then on, that second adjustment on, I learned something more and more about my spine, more about my health, more about, just life in general, being healthy when I'm 30 years old, not just when I'm 15 years old.
Jacob, I remember, we're going to go back and forth here. I was remembering, too, something. I remember we got your pain down to a level of, we went from, it was probably like a 6 or 8 out of 10 pain, depending on when you'd play, during a game. And then we got you down to a point where you're like 2 out of 10 pain, and you maintained that lower back pain for a considerable amount of time, never completely went away. The shoulder pain. And I always remember, focusing on trying to get your back because you had the not necessarily scoliosis, by diagnosable scoliosis because it's got to be over a 10-degree curvature. But you had a considerable amount of shift in your lower spine. You remember that on your x-rays, and you've been working on that really hard. One of the things I love about Jacob, he was a patient that is consistent with his visits, consistent with his exercises. He's devoted to getting well and getting healthy again, and that's just what made Jacob an amazing patient, and now where he's come to the point where he's going to chiropractic school in the near future. And just his life's taken a whole different route, and he's just somebody that, and I'll speak for him because I'm going to build you up, man. Sometimes you can't talk about yourself too much, but you have just devoted your life in learning and becoming a better person, somebody that can help others, and you've reached out to so many family members, friends, and just trying to help people, and you see now. What I preach on here all the time. The radio is one of the things that I get on here, I rant and rave. I'm all over the place sometimes when I talk. Mm-hmm. And people are like, man, this guy's against medicine. He's against vaccines. He's all over the place. But yet, in reality, what I'm for is getting people well and getting people healthy because I see the route, like you're saying, where our country is going and where children are going to end up, where families are ending up, where grandparents are not around to a point in time where they get to see their grandchildren get married and have children and do those things that I believe I want to experience, and I just wish everybody else had that same mindset to try and experience the same thing.
And that is the exact mindset that I want to develop to have in the future, because the way I look at it is most teenagers most high teenagers or young adults, whatever you want to call it, at 20 years of age, if they were to ever come into the office, the first thing they're going to worry about may be finances. But if my age group does not stop and notice the true meaning of health, and if they do not stop getting tricked and stop this nonsense from going on and start realizing the truth that is spoken in the office, every word that comes out of your mouth, I can see the truth in it because I'm there listening to it every day. It's not opinionated. It is the truth. The truth is what is right in your heart and in your head. And I've been taught that this is all truth to me. And if my age group and if my peers and my friends, if they can't realize it, then they're going to eventually be tricked into it.
You're in college going to Austin Peay here right now. On a daily basis, you probably see people taking either a narcotic medication for pain or an ibuprofen or Advil at least every, day. I can't imagine the number of college students that are really on Adderall and probably even getting to the point where, you don't have to, do not incriminate anybody on here, but, have you ever seen people abusing Adderall, ADHD medications,
Absolutely.
Or narcotics?
It's more common for somebody my age nowadays, and this is the scary thing. It's more common to see a 20-year-old, abusing pills and abusing Adderall rather than abusing marijuana or abusing cocaine. And that's the scary thing is, our country really wants to do that, but they're not really necessarily focused on what's really the addicting thing nowadays. And it's 2013. Minds have changed and people want to do different things.
Well, what has happened is we've created this culture that says if it comes from a pharmacy,
it's okay.
Then it's okay. We put children on ADHD medications and these drugs and we're having a a workshop next Monday, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's a free workshop to the community. This is an opportunity where I'm going to teach people how to raise healthy families. Now, maybe somebody's out there calling me a hypocrite because I don't have a family, I don't have kids, but I know, and I've actually, I'm working. This is my life, this is my career, this is my mission, is to make sure that I provide a better future for myself, my future family, my future kids. And that's what parents should really look at is, if we're watching 1 in 5 children to be on a medication, and many of these children on mind-altering medications, we should say, you know what, step back. I don't want to see my child follow that route. And most parents will say that. They don't want to see their child go that route of drugs and painkillers and get addicted to things. But yet, what parents are going to say to themselves, I'm going to take the steps necessary to provide that. I hope and pray that people are taking their children to church, teaching them good morals and ethics. But yet, in the same church community, I even see not only the schools and kids, it's like you see people just popping pills left and right. It's just like they go over the water fountain and they're taking a medication. And to me, I'm like, we just were not designed to do this. And it's become okay to our culture that drugs and prescription drugs are okay. But they're the leading cause of, they kill more people. I forget the statistic, how many times more people die from narcotic medications and abuse of prescription meds than they do of illegal marijuana, cocaine, those things. There's actually a statistic out there that showed that actually about 73% of people that are in drug rehab facilities are addicted to a prescription medication. They're not addicted to an illegal drug. 73% is addiction by prescription is basically where our country is at right now. So,
and I agree with everything you just said. And what I don't want to do is I don't want the kids being the victims of everything, because kids, we can't underestimate kids, because if the parents can't understand it, then the kids we have to step up. Kids is in my age, 20 years old, we have to get it, and we have to teach it to our parents, because our parents for 40, 50 years they've been taught this one thing, and it's a lie. And we're the ones with truth. We're the latest, the newest thing to the truth. And if we don't set and understand it and set an example for our parents didn't have, their parents weren't setting examples for them necessarily. So we've got to set an example as a younger generation.
I'll tell you, listeners, before we walked in here, I was talking with Jacob, and this is a kid that, and not even a kid, a man right now, that, and he's still, if Greg Walker and Dave Luce walked in here, they'd call him kid, and he has a passion for wanting to see things change. That's why he's so passionate. You can hear his voice on the radio here. He wants to see that people understand that we're headed down a very bad path in America, and it's very few people don't realize that we are in an economic decline. We're in a healthcare crisis, and healthcare is probably what's exactly causing our economic decline and all our problems in that realm. But it's like he wants to see his generation finally step up and say, we're going to be the generation that changes this trend. We don't want to see this continue anymore. But it's a frustration. I agree with you, Jacob, that it's like, I see a lot of my friends, family members, and individuals that I used to hang out with and I still stay in touch with, but they live a lifestyle that's just like, on your mind you can say is, if they only knew there was a better way. So, you had a couple articles that you were kind of thinking about talking about today, and I had a couple things I wanted to talk about. Let's bounce back and forth here and talk about some different things. I want to actually stop right there before we do. So it took you a couple months. A couple adjustments, and you got rid of your shoulder pain. Yep. You had caught as a catcher in baseball. What did that kind of do? Say something about sports. So, and if there's an athlete out there listening, how did chiropractic help you with your athletic career there while you're still in high school?
I can honestly say I would not have played my senior year had it not been getting the problems fixed. I can honestly say that. When everything was going on, the coaches, they didn't want to believe it. They didn't, the coaches grew up. If you had shoulder pain, you took an ibuprofen, you ran back on the field.
Yeah.
That's not how Jake Slater's mind thinks, because when Jake Slater gets back to the dugout, Jake Slater has to live with that lifestyle.
Yep.
After the game. And I'm a team member, I'm a team player, but...
Yeah. And what's sad is I would love to reach out to coaches and help people understand that it could take just a simple adjustment now and then to keep a player on the field, on the basketball court, in the football game. Talking to Kyle here, that he's been on a couple last shows, and he's a football player at Austin Peay, and he's talking about a player for basketball who's not going to get to play this year because of multiple compressed discs in his back, and all he's getting told is, hey, go and do swimming and don't play those sports anymore. You're just going to have to live with it. That's basically what these medical doctors are telling him. I'm like, so you're going to what America says is the best to take care of our athletes, and yet they're saying we have nothing to do and fix you. And quite frankly, I'm like, I know exactly what we need to do to get you healthy and well. But back to the coaches, it's not their fault. Again, we live in a culture that says it's okay to just take a medication and drug and cover up a symptom, but yet they'd laugh at you if you said, hey, my check engine light's on in my car, what do I do? Do I just get a piece of duct tape on it? And the coach would look at you and be like, boy, you're not really thinking right here. You need to go and you need to take your mechanic and have it fixed. That's what the coach would say. But instead, we're teaching our younger generations here now that you don't have to take care of your body. There's plenty of drugs and there's plenty of injections. There's plenty of mind-altering medications that can get you out of that feeling of pain or suffering for a temporary time and just get out there and do it.
Absolutely.
We got to change that we got to get the older generations, too, to stop that transferring that mindset over is what would be nice to happen. But many times generations, you don't change a generation. There's an old saying, forget who said it. I could look it up, but I don't know. Not worth the time. There's a philosopher that says you don't change a generation, and you don't change a country until a generation dies off and the next generation takes over, and that's really how you change a culture. Yeah. I totally butchered that quote, I'm sure, but I hope everybody understands what I'm saying there.
I see exactly what you're saying, because, kids my age can go and ask their grandparents, would you have done this route when you were this age? And they would say, well, back then, we did this. If we had a headache, we worked it off. Well, and then you ask the, parents' age, 40, 50, growing up through the 80s where they're 20 years old and medicine's popping out everywhere. You ask them what they did, and they start to say, I had this, maybe when I was in my 20s, I had this. And then you ask kids nowadays, and it's straight medicine. It's, chiropractics look at it as alternative. Why? Because you're focused on the main thing. Your posture controls everything, and you're thought of as alternative because you want to control your whole body in every aspect.
Take care of the physical body. So it's like we have a culture, too. It's like drugs are such a forefront and have been pushed on Americans. We are one of the only two countries in the world with direct-to-consumer advertising of drugs, and that's really harmed us in many ways, because if you can advertise that, it gets in the mind that that's the only way. So people believe that's the only way to go, and that's the primary route. And so what they do is we go, if the piece of duct tape and the drug and the injections or whatever it takes doesn't work, then it's like, okay, now let's go to the most logical thing and let's try to fix the physical body and get it in a better situation or get it stronger, get it back in the right position, however you want to say it. That's the alternative, is actually fixing the problem in America.
And the way I look at it is your mental mind controls your physical body. So huge. If you alter your mental mind, what happens to your physical body? It's altered.
If you change your mindset, is what he's saying. We change our mindset, the way we view something, our actions are going to follow that same route. So we need to change the way we view health, the way we take care of our health, what we look to when we want to get healthy. We even got to change the mindset. I was talking to Mom a day or two ago about, she's talking about her child, her daughter, she's like, yeah, I used to go to the emergency room and, no, it was a mom. She was sitting there. She wasn't talking about her daughter. She's saying, you got these parents, and it was actually a nurse, and she's like, you got these parents who, what do they do when their child's sick? and they're kind of asking me, what would you do when your child's sick? And I go, nothing. What are you talking about? It's what is your definition of health or sickness? If a child has a fever in their immune system and they feel tired and weak because their immune system is working so hard, well, then that's a good thing. And many people will call that the sickness is the fever, and they'll treat the fever. And there's no drug that can speed up your child's immune system. Antibiotics don't do that. They actually harm a child's immune system. They'll weaken it long term. Yeah, they may kill bacteria in your body, but they kill good bacteria too. So it's, in essence, a long-term harm rather than a benefit. But if we see that a sniffle and a sneeze and a fever is something where the body is designed to do those things, the body's creating those symptoms so that it can clear the system, it can detoxify, get rid of old, used white blood cells that have actually captured bacteria or viruses, and then you view the fever as something that boosts our immune system, that's where our mindset can change. And then now we can see that we don't need to give a fever-reducing medication because we're fighting against the body's natural defense mechanisms. We're fighting against what the body's trying to do. If we change that, now we're going to lead a path to where we're looking at how do we support the body, how do we increase the overall health, and support ourselves or support our children through the time period when their body are fighting something like an infection. So I was looking at a couple things I talked about this morning we were going to kind of touch base on. One of them, I really got on a hot topic. We were talking about cancer, and we were needing to talk about the prostate cancer and fish oil link. Well, I finally found the actual research study, which right now, unless you actually purchase it from the medical journals, you can read the abstract. But the first thing I read in the methods by which they did this research study, okay, so you have an article out there right now on the news. CNN's had it, all kinds of news journals. They just publicize this like crazy because here's my opinion, probably why they're publicizing this like crazy is, number one, they want to see people reduce the amount of supplements they take so they can create fear behind supplements. Then we're going to see less people kind of trying to change the way they're taking care of their health, and they're going to go back to drugs. So they think, oh, well, shoot, fish oil didn't work, increased cancer, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to my medical doctor and look for more drugs to take care of my health. But the title is Too Much Fish Oil Might Boost Prostate Cancer Risk. And what they said was it increased their chances of cancer by like 43% for overall cancers and 71% for aggressive cancers. And this was published in the Journal of the National Cancer Institute. So I went online, I found that research article, at least the abstract, and the first thing I read in the methods. So this is why I believe that this research is probably not the greatest research to really, hang your hat on, is the fact that the case subject, this is the methods, the case subjects were 834 men diagnosed with prostate cancer. So, folks, what they did was they already selected men who had prostate cancer. So they weren't looking the difference between men with prostate cancer, men without prostate cancer, all exactly the same age, all exactly the same lifestyles. All they did was they said, okay, let's get a bunch of men who already have prostate cancer, and then let's evaluate how much omega-3 fatty acids, which that's your terminology, that's the type of oil or fat we get from fish oil, is omega-3 fatty acids. There's multiple benefits to fish oil for heart problems, for chronic inflammation, for autoimmune disorders, all kinds of things, but it has to be in the proper ratio. But hopefully the listeners get that by what we're saying here is they already selected men who had prostate cancer. They weren't like looking at men who took fish oil over a long period of time and deciding whether they got prostate cancer or not. No, they already had it. So that's kind of a fault or a problem with this research study. But they did find that the men with higher amounts had more aggressive prostate cancer than those with the lower amounts. So I was telling Jacob there at the office, I was talking to him, I'm like, here's the thing you got to think. What if the men who were diagnosed with aggressive prostate cancer all of a sudden are like, holy cow, I've got to do something about my health. They get online, and all they find is, okay, the supplements I should take, the best top supplements for health are fish oil, and the top supplement is vitamin D. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out and get the cheapest brand of fish oil, and then I'm just going to start loading up on it. That's a lot of times what happens in my office. I just sat down with a couple last night and had to talk to them about their cheap junk fish oil supplement they're taking is a clear capsule. So being a clear capsule, you're going to have light get through there. The ingredients of the supplement had polysorbate 80 and propylene glycol, which propylene glycol is antifreeze. I was laughing about that. So you have like this junk chemicals put into, and chemicals cause cancer. We know that chemicals. So who knows? Maybe all these men, it wasn't the fish oil, but the fish oil is there because they're taking the fish oil supplement, but they're getting propylene glycol into their system. They're getting polysorbate 80 in their bodies in high quantities as well by taking a supplement, a cheap supplement. So, folks, just don't go buy the cheapest darn supplement. If you're going to spend money on your health, make sure that you're getting a quality supplement. Make sure that you're going to a quality healthcare practitioner or doctor that's going to help you explain the reasons why you need to take certain supplements, why you should avoid other supplements. I mean, the lady, the wife in the situation, I had to talk to her about her osteoporosis medications and her osteoporosis supplement she's taking. She's taking a calcium carbonate and calcium citrate supplement, which is pulverized rock. And that's not what your body really needs to build healthy bone. It's not a calcium deficiency, ladies. It is a hormonal imbalance, which can come from your spine, can come from the fact that we don't exercise enough, come from the fact that we're overweight, and fat produces estrogen. It can come from very poor diet, and you're not getting enough vitamin D in your system, so you're not getting enough sun. That's another way in which you're not getting vitamin D. Oh, and she was talking about milk. There's so many little details I could say about the conversation I had with this couple, and they're the generation where it's just go to your doctor and do whatever they say. So she's like, well, what about milk? I'm like, well, you can't drink milk if you want to avoid osteoporosis, because milk, when it's pasteurized, is very acidic. It pulls calcium out of your bones, so then it's going to promote osteoporosis. And then she's like, well, how do you get vitamin D? And I'm like, well, you get it from the sun. That's where God created it. How God created us to get vitamin D primarily is from the sun. But she's like, well, isn't it in milk? And I'm like, no, it's vitamin D2 that's in milk, which is a synthetic form and not bioidentical to what our body produces. So I'm like, that's not a good source of vitamin D. So long conversation with them. Long story short, folks, research. Know that you're getting a whole food-based supplement. Make sure that you're getting a natural form of the supplements that you're taking. So that was one of the things I kind of thought we'd talk about today. Any comments on that stuff? What do you think about? Do you see people in college and stuff like that taking supplements?
Oh, of course. I hang out with all kinds of athletes and, people that are working out. And, you read the back of their protein. You read the back of their protein. First word you see is creatine. Then you see all these unnecessary metals in these guys. They're walking around, they're looking big, but, is that muscle or is that inflammation from all these unnecessary metals, all this stuff that they're putting in their body, and it's counteracting?
Consumer Reports on that subject, Consumer Reports found that almost every single protein drink out there on the market, such as Muscle Milk, GNC brands, had cadmium, lead, mercury, arsenic, there's a couple of nickel, lots of different heavy metals in them that are very toxic, and some of them in quantities that you would consume more than you should by consuming that whey protein. And what happens is we're getting this whey protein from sick cows is what we're doing, and we're getting it from cows that are fed tons of antibiotics, tons of chemicals that are sprayed on their crops. They're being vaccinated to all get out, and they're getting all these heavy metals into their milk. Well, then that gets into the, whey protein, and now we've got a sick cow producing. And that's one of the things you got to think. If you're going to get milk from an animal, you better get it from a healthy cow. You don't want to get any food source from a sick animal. You want to get a food source from a healthy animal. So just some recommendations there. But yeah, I see that. And what's one thing I always tell people is like you got to realize that you should need to go organic. You need to make sure that the cows are grass fed. So back to the omega-3, omega-6 ratio of fatty acids, if you get a grass-fed cow, their meat is going to be 1-to-4 to 1-to-3 ratio of omega-3s to omega-6s, and that's the ratio we should be consuming. So, yeah, there may be some legitimate reasons why not to take mega doses of omega-3, just pure fish oil, because you could go too many omega-3s and throw your ratio off to where you tip the scales in the opposite direction. The scales need to be balanced. So a 1-to-2, a 1-to-1, a 1-to-4. They've known that it's a 1-to-1 to a 1-to-4 ratio for perfect health. You need both good, healthy omega-6s and good, healthy omega-3s. So with that, that's why Maximize Living has actually made a 1-to-2 ratio supplement where you have things like fish oil, you have astaxanthin, you've got omega-6s from like flax seeds and different things like that. So you're getting a ratio of healthy fats like the way God intended us to eat and consume these things rather than just a one-sided, lopsided supplement that tips the scales in the opposite direction. So real quick thought here, this is the thing is, what could be the reason, if fish oil caused prostate cancer, how would the mechanism by which it did that, how would it actually cause that problem? Well, if you tip your scales in the opposite direction, eating way too many omega-3s and taking mega doses, there's no way if you just ate a healthy diet they could tip your scales in the wrong direction. It's completely impossible, basically. But what happens is if you take mega doses of fish oil, you could actually be tipping the scales to the point where too many omega-3s cause your immune system to shut down. So your immune system can use omega-6s, and if you don't have enough omega-6s or your ratio is thrown off, and omega-3s are anti-inflammatory, omega-6s are pro-inflammatory, your immune system uses the omega-6, to actually activate certain mechanisms in your immune system to kill cancer cells or to kill bacteria and viruses through an inflammatory process. But if it has too many omega-3s in the bloodstream, we could theoretically shut down that mechanism of inflammation, thereby allowing certain types of viruses and bacteria and cancers to grow. So that's why we're always talking balance your life, balance your lifestyle, your nutrition, those things. Change your nutrition first and then start taking a supplement. That's ultimately what we want to get across to people.
And my outlook on that is if you're taking a supplement, know exactly why you're taking that supplement. Know the supplement you're taking. Don't just go and take a supplement because your brother or your sister just because you can get it at the corner of Happy and Healthy at Walgreens doesn't mean it's necessarily healthy and it's going to make you happy. Know what you're taking. Know exactly why you're taking it. And if there's no purpose for it, leave it on the counter at Walgreens. Leave it on the counter at Walmart.
Yep. I just have to say this, that people need to look at this. If you Google, and it's on Reuters News, so it's a UK newspaper or whatever, online magazine, whatever you want to call it, journal. So it says, new twist, GlaxoSmithKline's China bribes case. If you want to watch the video, I posted on Marathon Chiropractic's Facebook page, but you can actually watch as the heads of GlaxoSmithKline, one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world, is being investigated over in China right now for fraud and bribery of its doctors. Well, come to find out, the head of GlaxoSmithKline, the representative, has been interrogated and investigated, and in an interview completely came clean and said, we've been filtering money through travel agencies, and it's up to almost $500 million that they've given to medical doctors over there to increase the prices of their drugs and increase the sales of their drugs. But what's even more just upsetting to me is the fact that we will trust our children's health to a pharmaceutical company. The pharmaceutical company was using sexual favors. Folks, you heard that right. Doctors were getting sexual favors over in China to increase the sale of drugs. What I think is, if the drugs worked and they're really what we needed, you don't need to bribe doctors with money and sex. to get them to do what is right for another human being. That should never be the reason behind why anybody is a doctor, is because of money. That's so wrong in my opinion. And just seeing a drug company doing this, just one of the passionate things I'm thinking, why do people continue to go that route and believe that? So if you want to watch that video and actually listen to the GlaxoSmith representative, Reuters News, New Twist, and GlaxoSmith China's bribes case, or you can visit Marathon Chiropractic on Facebook and visit us there. So you had a couple articles that you were wanting to talk about and just kind of chat about a little bit here and there, and we had some I was going to mention here once we got through with that. It was kind of in the realm of cancer, and I know that you're looking at cancer, the myth of early detection. That was a good subject. Me and Greg this morning, Greg asked me a question. He's like, Doc, he's like, well, people they believe so wholeheartedly in early detection that it would save their life, and it's sad that people rely so much on early detection that they don't do anything to actually prevent the disease in the first place. So what were you reading there? What you thinking?
Well, I'm reading over this myth of early detection, which is talking about women needing to go out and get their mammographies. And the thing at the bottom, the statement at the bottom, it says, they estimate that for the supposed one life saved by mammography, 25 women have to go through unnecessary treatment. So that's saying whatever ratio you want to put it, if it's 4 out of 100, if it's 8 out of 200, if it's 12 out of 300, think about the risk over reward for those other 24 women that are going to get this mammography for, what they think is going to, be the safe route of cancer. And all they're listening, all the main answer they're getting is from a medical doctor saying yes or no, you do or don't have breast cancer, and it says 1 out of 4 breast cancers that come up go away spontaneously. Yeah.
There is, and what he's reading through is, you could actually Google again, the myth of early detection if you want to read it. It comes from Newsweek 2009, has a great couple medical doctors quoted in there, talking a lot about PSA testing, and that's one of the things that I talked about this morning was many men, it's out on Health Day News right now, all over the health, like Time Magazine. You'll find this article if you just Google it. But it's many men plan to ignore PSA test guidelines. And what they mean by that is, at 2012, recommendations by the U.S. Preventive Task Force regarding prostate cancer screening, it now says men of all ages who haven't been diagnosed with prostate cancer shouldn't get the PSA test. So they're saying nobody, basically, in our generation, since everybody your age, Jacob, everybody my age, not a single one of us should ever get our prostate checked. And Greg's like, why? Why not? It's that culture of mindset thinking of we have to be checked because prostate cancer just happens to happen. There's no, you know what I mean? It's like, to think that early detection is your best way of surviving cancer, it's just got to change. And it's not I don't want to say it's a really bad way, but it is a bad way of thinking, because if we just wait until the cancer is there and we live a lifestyle that I could sit down with a patient and see, okay, you're eating McDonald's, you're eating junk food every day, you're not exercising, your spine is deteriorating, you're stressed all get out, you're not taking good supplements. We can look at all these factors that would weigh on whether their body's building health or whether their body's building disease. And what happens then is, it's like, okay, you're on the path to either a heart attack or cancer, one of the two. It's basically the path you're on unless you change something. So you exercise, you stop eating junk food, and you start eating more raw fruits and vegetables and lean meats. You eat healthy. You take the right supplements. You do your research behind it. Make sure they're not junk supplements you're taking. And then you eliminate medications and toxic chemicals that you're putting into your body that would cause cancer. And then you're going to give yourself the best opportunity to live to your God-given health potential. So, and with this, what they're saying, and Jacob mentioned a thing I think about this article, about 25%, and this is from British Medical Journal, British Medical Journal put out several studies, and I love reading through them because they say that almost 25 to 30% of breast cancer detected in the United States and other countries that do frequent mammography and mammograms, they're finding that those would ultimately spontaneously regress. They'd go away on their own. So if a cancer can go away on its own in one person, what does everybody have the opportunity and ability to do? They all have that opportunity to reverse their own cancers. It's just, what did that person change? What did they do to reverse their own cancer? We just got to start thinking about that question right there. How do we enable our bodies to heal and fight cancer to a better degree? So with these recommendations about the myth of early detection, see, it gives people a false sense of security. They think they can keep living their lifestyle, and as long as my test last month came up clean, then I'm good to go. I can do whatever I want. Well, that's, my dad made a big mistake with that. He cost him a lot of money, almost cost him his life, could have, but he had 2 weeks prior to his first heart attack, which was my dad's only heart attack. He's changed a lot since then. He's not taken medications. He's taken the supplements that I provide him with. He's hopefully exercising more. He gets out and plays with the dog and gets out on the lake and enjoys himself, reduces stress in his life. He's been snow skiing, doing different things, so doing the right things. But 2 weeks prior to his first heart attack and his only heart attack, he actually had his medical doctor, during a stress test, tell him he was healthy and say there was nothing wrong with his stress test. And that comes from Cleveland Clinic. The research behind that shows that only about 12% of heart attacks can be detected by stress tests. 12%. So that's basically a waste of time and money. But again, that gives us false sense of security. We think that we can just hang on to that one glimmer of hope and feel that we're safe if we just keep getting tested each year. So I'm going to read the last sentence in this article, and then Jacob, you can comment on it here. It says, and this is the reason why people, and like Greg's people are so taken back, and why men are now going to disobey their medical doctors, even though medical doctors probably aren't giving the true story of why it's dangerous to get your PSA tested. But what they said here at the end of the myth of early detection says, they look at him as if he were crazy. So this is patients looking at a medical doctor that is telling the truth. He's literally telling patients, you don't need to get mammograms, you don't need to get prostate checks, you need to change your lifestyle. But what he said was, they look at him and they think they're crazy. No matter what science says, it will be a cold day in hell before patients let go of the one slender hope they feel they have in beating cancer. And that's sad, because the one slender hope means patients and people in America are just putting their hope in early detection rather than in the things we know can prevent it in the first place. So.
And my outlook on it is just, why cut the breast off and not do anything to change your life and then expect to find both happiness and more, memorable life for the future?
You're almost talking like Angelina Jolie's story here recently, having preventive mastectomy, in which there's no proof that having your breast cut off will allow you to live longer. The more body parts you cut out, when you talk about tonsils, adenoids, you talk about your gallbladder taken out, means increased risk of heart problems and heart disease, because you can't absorb healthy fats anymore. There's so many problems with cutting body organs off or out that it's not a good choice to go, when in actuality, lifestyle can prevent it. Looking at a couple other articles here, the other one I was going to talk about was women at high breast cancer risk should consider preventive drugs. So I'm going to go back and kind of compare and contrast here the thinking here. So certain drugs like tamoxifen and Evista, Aromacin, I think is how you pronounce it. Yeah, a bunch of weird names for drugs, but when it comes down to it, they're saying that you need to take these drugs if you're at higher risk of breast cancer. So they're asking you to take a drug that can actually increase the risk of heart problems and stroke. Massive increase. And I'm just going to kind of lay it out here. My mind goes all over the place, but when I think about this, they're now telling you to take hormone-suppressing drugs to prevent breast cancer when about 8, 5, 10 years ago, what were they telling you? What were doctors telling us? They're telling women to take hormone-enhancing or hormone replacement drugs to prevent heart disease and stroke. So now they're going to tell you to take a hormone-suppressing drug to prevent the cancers that were caused by the hormone-enhancing drugs they gave 10 years ago. That's how ridiculous medical ways of thinking are. But here's the fact. If you read many research studies into cancer prevention drugs, if you read into prevention of heart disease with cholesterol meds, you will find that there is no reduction in mortality. That means death from all causes. And many a times there'll be an increase in mortality, meaning people will die sooner if they take that drug than doing nothing at all. But what happens, exactly what happens with prostate cancer, I'm going to read a section of a book here. And hopefully for the men, we've been all over the place, but I think we're kind of all coming around to people understanding this. I want to read a section of a book I haven't read it and quoted it before. It's How We Do Harm by Otis Webb Brawley. Otis Brawley is the Chief Medical and Scientific Officer and Vice President of the American Cancer Society. And he's an oncologist, a hematology, medicine, and epidemiology professor at Emory University. But what he's talking about here, and let me pre-frame this, he's actually quoting and talking about an opportunity he had sitting down with a marketing sales rep for prostate cancer testing. So what he says is the guy promoting the screening says, for every 1,000 men over the age of 50 who volunteer for free screenings, and men, listen up, this is why you don't. At the end of this, you're going to learn why you don't want to get your prostate checked. So, for every 1,000 men over the age of 50 who volunteer for free screening, 145 will have an abnormal screen. Given the demography of the mall, 10 of the 145 will have insurance that our health system doesn't take. So 135 will come to see why they have an abnormal screen. We make up the cost of offering free screening by charging for the evaluation of abnormal screens. So they've already made up their money for the free stuff they give away by that. But he says about 40 to 45 will have cancer. He says we hit bingo with them. That's a direct quote of what this marketing sales rep says. It says we hit bingo with them. That just infuriates me, the fact that somebody would talk about somebody getting cancer as a way of which hitting bingo. He goes on, he says, we know the number who will get radical prostatectomy, the number who will get radiation therapy, the number who will get hormones. We know the number who will have incontinence so bad that they will want an artificial urethral sphincter implanted. We even know the number who will not be able to get erections and will want Viagra. We know how many Viagra won't work. So we know how many penile prosthesis we will sell. So Otis, thinking to himself, says, realizing I have been granted an audience with Lucifer, I ask the fundamental question, how many lives will you save if you screen 1,000 men? The marketer took his glasses off and looked at me as if I were a fool and said, don't you know no one knows that this stuff saves lives? I can't give you that number. So there is no number they can give you on how many lives they're saving by doing these PSA testing, but they can tell you exactly how many men are never going to have sex with their wives again, how many will need a prosthesis to have sex with their wives again, and how many will wear diapers for the rest of their life. They can tell you that, but they can't tell you they save lives with this test. And what Otis says, somewhere else in this book, he says that the hormone drugs were giving men. Here it is. Here's the exact section of the book. He says since 1990, we've seen a drop and decline of about 30% less people dying from prostate cancer. I want to highlight the word from, okay? You can decrease somebody's risk of dying from breast cancer by cutting her breasts off. She no longer has breasts, folks, so how could she ever die of breast cancer? It's pretty simple. Now, here's the thing. He goes on to say, is cause-specific mortality dropping because doctors are finding early-stage disease and treating it more effectively? That would be the best-case scenario. So he's saying, are we treating these people who we find that they have prostate cancer, are we treating them well and saving their life and allowing them to live longer? He says, no. Worst-case scenario is at least equally compelling widespread use of the hormonal agents. The hormone drugs they're giving men to lower their PSA is causing men to die of cardiovascular disease and diabetes before, and he highlights and he emphasizes before they would ordinarily die of prostate cancer. That's what I suspect is taking place. He says if urologists stop prescribing these drugs as widely used, we will see deaths from prostate cancer start to inch up. That could actually be good news. He highlights good. He emphasizes good again. Some of the men who would have been killed earlier by strokes and heart attacks caused by hormonal treatments of their asymptomatic disease would now be living long enough to die of their prostate cancer. So that kind of makes me think, and I hope you guys understand why it's a risk to get a PSA test, and that's what they said in the article too, is the risks are the fact that people and the doctors, and once you get a positive test, your wife, your friends, your family members, and even your doctor will push you to take treatments that will kill you faster than what doing nothing would do. So that's the problem with this test. Now, my thinking is if you got the test, you got a positive test, and you do have some sort of prostate cancer, number one, don't freak out. Don't say, oh gosh, we need to cut it out now before it metastasizes. Well, here's a good thing about PSA, prostate-specific antigen. Well, it's actually the PSA hormone actually suppresses metastatic prostate cancer. So it suppresses, the higher that hormone is, the less likely your prostate is to metastasize, the cancer is metastasized elsewhere to your body. But once they discover cancer in any tissue in your body, it's already free-floating in your bloodstream. So don't think that cutting it out right now, today, is going to save you from having it metastasize to other parts of your body. You have cancer because your body isn't functioning and healing well. Understand that at the basic level. Then from there, you've got to say, okay, I'm not going to go through the harmful treatments. So harmful treatments like drugs, hormonal agents. In women, the same thing goes from you, is you're not going to take harmful drugs that would kill you faster by heart disease and stroke than leaving the cancer go. So what you have to do is say to yourself, I'm going to start getting healthy, improve my body's functional capacity and its ability to heal and fight cancer. So I'm going to eat the right foods. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to reduce stress. I'm going to get pressure off my nervous system so my body can heal properly. And that's how I'm going to fight this and extend my life. So don't freak out. Just say. So there is a way that the test could actually help people if they did the right things after they got a positive test. It's just our country, again, relies on drugs and surgery, and those things are very harmful, and they don't get the person healthier. And if you don't get the person healthier, you're still dying earlier. So that's the biggest thing that needs to change. So, any thoughts there?
I agree 100%. Yeah, I agree 100%.
Common sense.
Yeah.
Is when it comes down to it. So the other article I had too here, I had one on vitamin D, and I didn't get to read through the whole thing, but I've always promoted vitamin D as being a very beneficial thing, and it's actually been shown to reduce breast cancer, reduce prostate cancer risk, reduce colon cancer risk, reduce all kinds of things. But they showed that another study came out that vitamin D deficiencies have been linked to a host of illnesses, including heart disease, certain cancers, osteoporosis, diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, schizophrenia, and autoimmune disorders. So let's think about this whole talk we've had today about several different things. A lot about preventive tests, screenings, these things, and the promotion of drugs to try and prevent illnesses and disease. When you have a supplement, and let's compare this to tamoxifen, the drug that doctors are saying you should take to prevent breast cancer. You have vitamin D that will prevent and help you prevent illnesses such as heart disease, diabetes, cancers, osteoporosis, Alzheimer's, schizophrenia, and autoimmune disorders. So It's a plethora of things. Because what you're doing is when you get vitamin D, when you're not vitamin D deficient, when you're out in the sun, exposing your skin to adequate amounts of the UV rays that help your body produce vitamin D. Now, here's the thing: is I know somebody. And this is why I'm kind of stalling here. People are thinking right now, "Oh my gosh, I thought it caused skin cancer if we go out in the sun." The sun doesn't produce or doesn't cause skin cancer. There is actually a inverse correlation where the closer you live to the equator, the less skin cancer risk people have. So we can throw that out the window. But what happens is if you would burn, yes, you can increase your risk of cancer if you burn really, really bad, because that does cause damage to your cells. But what you want to do is get out there and get just an adequate amount, get a light little tan, don't burn, and you'll get plenty of vitamin D that day. Now, I supplement with vitamin D because when the days I've got to be inside, like today on the radio all day long or at the office, I want to make sure that my body still has plenty of vitamin D and I don't become deficient and put myself at risk of these types of conditions. So, let's compare and contrast. You have a vitamin that has no side effects. And the side effects studies that you'll find out there are actually coming from studies done with vitamin D2. D2 is not bioidentical to what our body produces. Again, it's a synthetic form of vitamin D, and that's what we fortify milks with. So you can't get the good vitamin D from milk. Lots of details here. Ultimately, just use common sense, folks. You can take a supplement that can do all of that, or you can get out in the sun and get something beneficial that can do all that, or you can go and listen to the American Society of Clinical Oncology, so oncology doctors, medical doctors that will make tons and tons of money if you're fooled into taking a drug that can only be sold by them to prevent cancer, that can only be treated by them. So you have this right here. You have a drug to prevent breast cancer, but will increase your risk of stroke and heart attack. Massively increase. And majority of people are dying of stroke and heart attack before they're dying of cancer. So that's the number one killer in America is heart disease in women. So if you take a drug that increases your risk of the number one killer of women as far as diseases go, you're not benefiting yourself. Just get plenty of vitamin D out there, folks. So a couple little things we learned today. I hope everybody's learned a little bit of something on today's Maximize Your Health radio show. Your Lunch and Learn with Dr. Dale here. Any closing thoughts, Jacob? I appreciate you being on here. I appreciate
I love
you
being here. Just listen to this, folks, and don't think it's coming from two people's opinions. It's two people that really, really, really want to expose truth and help people. It's not to come down here. We don't want you at our office to be another number. We want you at our office so you are changing your life in the right way and not out here being a victim of another study where it was proven wrong in the future. So listen, study. Don't just go by our word. Go study chiropractic. Go look for the truth out there because it is out there. You just have to hear it from the right source and not the skeptic on the idea. Hear it from the right source. Search any Maximize Living website and you will find truth. You will find anything and everything that we're saying to be true.
And what I say, too, is search your heart and search your common sense. Don't search within the recommendations of your doctor and what you believe because of what they told you. Don't search just the articles in the news, in the media, because, trust me, when it comes down to it, the media is using propaganda, and it's legal in America now, I guess. Somebody told me that the other day about politics. I was, blown away. I'm like, our government legalized propaganda. I'm like, great. We already have enough lives. But when it comes down to it, folks, search your common sense. What makes more sense to help our country get out of this devastating situation we're in healthcare? What makes more sense? Exercise or thinking right? We're going to go by the 5 essentials of Maximize Living. Thinking right, reducing stress, improving your mindset, improving the health and quality of your spine so that your nervous system can function and heal your body the way it was intended to get plenty of quality nutrition, to improve your exercise lifestyle and daily routine, and then detoxify. Do those 5 essentials sound like a better idea for gaining health and a better quality of life? Or does going out in searching for the next drug or waiting on the next positive test by your doctor to tell you when the lifestyle you've chosen has led you down the path that it's going to, unless we change the direction we're headed. So, folks, have a great day. Look forward to hearing from you all or talking with everybody next week. We've got a reminder, Monday, 7 p.m. the 22nd, Monday evening in my office between Chopsticks and Sweetberry. Call me if you want to schedule and reserve a seat, 931-591-2010. It's Raising Healthy Families. We're going to teach people how to raise healthy families and kids in a culture that is not really getting that result. So we want to help you with that. So God bless everyone. Have an amazing week.